lately, and I've kind of made it across the board to where there's different things. Last week we talked to Layden Force about door mags. He's got American Whitetail and a bunch of different publications there that they do. So I appreciated him coming on this week. This week we're going to talk about some predator hunting, some AR-10 components, some rifles, some different things maybe you haven't heard of, but come on, bring more light to this product. Of course, I always want to thank our title sponsor, Primary Arms. If you're looking for mounts, optics, tripods, body armor, pistol stuff, I mean, they've got it all. They're right there with Midway USA and everybody else, and they've got great prices. There's a lot of great stuff on their website. There's some good deals. So go check out Primary Arms. Of course, couldn't be here without Falcore Defense. Falcore's been one of our supporters from the very beginning. I just built a new 6 Creed on one of their MTs, or not the MT7, the 7 action. The MT7 is their new hunting, the new hunting action that they've come out with, and they're getting down there. I think there was like 1 pound 4 ounces or something, super light, and they're going to try and work a little bit more of that out. So I'm excited to see where they're going to go with that, because we all know that the lightweight hunting game is on fire right now. It's going crazy. Of course, we want to thank Utah Air Guns. I'm still waiting on my FX. Hopefully I'll get it this week. I've got to bug him a little bit more, but we're going to go kill a whole bunch of stuff with it. We're going to, do some competitions with it. We're just going to have fun with it. And it's kind of opening up another venue for me, because we all know that it's hard to get components right now and everything else. And everybody looks at air guns like, man, they're so expensive. But you got to think it's initial investment, right, for an air gun. And then once you get your initial investment, I mean, it runs off air. You don't have to buy powder. You don't have to buy primers. You have to buy all that stuff. So it's just one of those things you got to kind of look at from different views of what you're going to do. But, I've always been a rimfire fan, loved it. And this, I think, is going to open up a lot more doors. So that's awesome. But I want to get right to it. I haven't BS'd with Scott for a hot minute. We kind of talked when we were at the Salt Lake show, and said hi, bye, because when we're all at shows, we're all crazy anyway, going to meetings and dinners and whatever the hell else we're doing at shows. But I wanted to welcome Scott Milkovich. He's got a badass company, and I kind of wanted to talk about it today and just have a good bullshit session. How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. How you doing?
Freaking Thursday, almost Friday. The 4th threw me off this week, so I'm still trying
Oh,
to
me
figure out
too.
what the hell day it is.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, homeboy.
Yeah, I am getting older. I'm 54. I was in the military for 11 years. I was in the Army, but I was a communications guy. So not anybody fancy, no Delta Force or SEAL like most guys think they are. Just did a lot of cool stuff over there, and got out in '98. Moved back to Arizona in 2000. You know my brother pretty well, so he got me a job at an AR company and started building ARs there. Um, the place sold to another company, so I went and worked for somebody else for a couple of years, and then 15 years ago, next month actually, I started my own company. So my company is Specialized Dynamics. We do custom ARs. Most of our clientele are predator hunters. I travel all over the country: Texas, New Mexico, the Montana, the Dakotas, sometimes in the Midwest, and do a lot of predator hunting, a lot of coyote hunting. And that's what the whole business is wrapped around. We probably make 80% AR-10s compared to 20% AR-15s. We just had that little niche market. 243s are popular. Lately, in the last year or two, the 6 Creedmoor's very popular. I shoot a 6 Creedmoor. I shoot an 18-inch carbon barreled 6 Creedmoor. And then one of the things that we're known for is AR-10 and 22-250. We don't take any proprietary mags like some of the other companies. We use a standard 308 P mag. The only caveat to that, you can only put 7 rounds in your magazine, and that's just due to the taper of the case. Anytime you put more than 7 rounds, it starts to nosedive a little bit. You have some feeding issues. But we've probably sold 400 or 500 of them in 3.5 years since we brought it out, and just really good round. 22 250, as you know, has been a staple in the predator hunting community for a long time, and I worked on it for about a year. I had to change a couple things out. It's not just simple of throwing in an AR and letting it eat like a 223. So, I'm always more than willing to help people out. On top of the specialized dynamics, we just started a new company last year, Spade Composites. We're doing a lot of carbon fiber barrels, mostly AR, but we do some pre-fits for bolt guns, um, like the Bighorn Origin Action. I got quite a few of the Bighorns, the Remage, most of the easy stuff. And we've been really digging in and kicking tail on those carbon barrels.
That's good. I mean, that's kind of where I heard about you. As far as the AR stuff. Andrew asked if you've ever done 300 short mags. Have you ever done 300 short mags?
No, one of the problems with the short mags is only Olympic Arms made a bolt for them for the longest time, and they wouldn't sell components. Um, I'm sure we could find a company now that makes different bolt. I'm sorry, different bolt faces for the 300 short mag. Olympic Arms was the only one. I'm sure we could find them now, but I'm not too versed in the short mags. Um, it might be something we'll look into, but we're so busy right now, Cole. We're 22 to 56 Creedmoors, and these carbon barrels are just flying out the door every time we can build them. So we're probably doing 75 barrels a month, which is nothing compared to the big companies. But we're a small company, 4 employees, and doing the rifles and the carbon barrels, we're quite busy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. Phoenix Weaponry makes a 300 short mag, I believe. They've been making some off the wall crazy stuff like straight wall cartridge
Yeah,
ARs, and I'm just like, that's the issue with a lot of that is then it becomes super proprietary. Is like they've got to figure out a perfect way to make it fit, and I think they had that issue with a couple of their cases. Is it had to be super like you had to buy their dies and all their stuff to try and make it right. And it was just kind of a super pain in the butt thing. And I guess if you want to go down that rabbit hole and have something crazy like that that'll work, I mean, great. But a lot of these ARs, they're too finicky. I've just seen too many of those. And I've only honestly probably ever seen, a couple brands that have been super reliable when it comes to the 10 platforms, right?
yeah, they are a little bit more finicky, and it's a feeding issue. We use like a +1 gas system on most of ours. It alleviates a little bit of the pressures. We use the JP bolt. We have a hydraulic buffer system made by Kinshot that um, was designed just for us. We did a lot of testing with them. So AR-10s are inherently overpressured, so you really have to use an adjustable gas block. And the other way to control pressure, as you know, is a mass. So a heavier buffer, heavier spring. And so we use a lot of that as well.
Yeah, just trying to make it work. I get that. How the hell have things been otherwise? What have you been hunting? I know
Uh,
we just talked about we were hunting deer in Utah. What
yeah,
else?
I, I drew a tag in Utah this year for end of October in the Wasatch West. I have a Arizona antelope hunt beginning of October, which I don't know how I drew that. I have buddies that have 18, 20 points, and I only had 4 points. So I better go buy a lottery ticket. So I'm going to
Yeah.
do those two big game hunts. And then, after those hunts in October, it's nothing but coyote hunting for me all the way up until probably March.
Yeah, dude, I've been slacking so bad on hunting lately. I'll go out and, with thermal and different things and, hunt for a few nights and kill a little bit of stuff. But Utah's just getting so difficult to hunt because our biggest issue here is every Tom, Dick, and Harry wants that $50 bounty.
Yep, that
And
bounty.
they've made the coyotes so damn smart it's not even funny. And that's one of the hard things is once you give those coyotes a PhD, they evolve. They're smart freaking animals. People that
They,
truly hunt coyotes, they understand how smart they really are.
absolutely. We came out to Utah a year and a half ago, and applied for the bounty too. And every time we saw a coyote play the rabbit, it turned around and ran away. And we saw
Mhm.
3 or 4 truckloads of, I don't want to say kids, but young adults with shotguns on their rack, and I think everybody's out there trying to get that money too, and it's
Mhm.
tough.
Yep, they've been teaching them good. And even at night when you're thermal hunting, like in a side by side or something, and they hear it slow down, like they've programmed their
Yeah,
brains to understand, like, hey, they're slowing down. I know what they're doing. So bye, and we're starting to hide a little bit better, run with tripod setups and suppressors and all that kind of stuff. But it's been super difficult here in Utah to do it. And it kind of ruins it. Everybody, I've seen a lot of people park their truck and pretty much sit on their tailgate and call. And I'm like, well, you're just helping them understand what the hell's going on. You know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely. I go up to North Dakota every year, and last year we ventured over to Montana and did some thermal hunting. I have a thermal, but we can't use the thermals here in Arizona. Um, and only certain units we can hunt at night, and it's only spotlight. So it's December through May, and it's only up in the units where there's a lot of deer and antelope and elk. So mostly the northern units. But I have one just because I travel so much.
Yeah, that thermals, dude, they're a game changer, but man, they're expensive. And you're right there by Mexico. Mexico, man, there's some stellar freaking coyote hunting opportunities down there as long as you don't get shot by the drug dealers or by the drug kingpins or whatever.
Yeah, we see a lot of the trace of the illegals when we go down south. You see all the blankets and the stashes and water bottles just stacked up under bushes, and sort of sad to see.
That's craziness. So when it comes to your guys' rifles, are they DI or what systems are they when you guys designed them? Are they just straight gas systems?
Yeah, we use DI, and everybody's got a belief, and it's just my theory, and so there's no proof to this. But I think a DI system in the AR-10s are a little bit more accurate. I don't know if it's the piston system throws the harmonics off of the when the barrel whips. I've tried several of the kits and then several other manufacturers in the AR-10 platform, and I just couldn't get them to shoot very well. And so we just stuck with the DI. And like I was saying earlier, we use mostly a +1 gas system, sometimes a +2 gas system on our barrels just to alleviate some of that pressure.
No, I got you. Yeah, and that's the other issue when you're running suppressed and you're getting filthy, nasty, and you're getting shit back in your face. Especially when you're hunting, you don't want that in your face. You can do
Right.
follow up shots and everything else. I'm looking at the rain on your website, and does that just come in 223 or what does that come in?
Yeah. So the rain is our lightweight AR-15, and the chaos is the same exact rifle but in the AR-10. So the rain will come in 223, 17 round, 6 ARC, 6.5 Grendel, 6.8 SPC. I got a couple of Wildcats. I designed one Wildcat a while back off a 22 Nosler case. I just necked it up to 6 millimeter. I call it our Super Six. I'm running a 70 grain Nosler ballistic tip, right about 3,200 feet per second.
That's moving
Similar to
good.
what the 6 are. Yeah, it's moving real good for an AR-15. And I've hammered quite a few coyotes. And the Chaos is just the same exact rifle, but in the AR-10 platform with the, you know, from a 308, 6 Creed, 6.5 Creed, 260 Remington, a 22, 250, and all the AR-10 platforms. I've even done a couple of them. I got a couple on the board right now in a 220 Swift,
Mm.
which we don't make a whole lot of them, but we can make them run, and we've made 4 or 5 of them for customers. One guy out of um, Kansas, one guy out of Nebraska, and I just had a guy, a friend of mine, order one out of Iowa.
That the 220 Swift was always a super popular, fast moving bugger, but it was like the 22 250 is. It never had a fast enough twist rate to stabilize the bullets that we really want to shoot. You got those
Yeah,
ultra light ones, and then when it gets windy, good luck trying to hold on to where the hell thing goes. What twist rates are you running on your stuff now?
on the 220 Swiss, we've been doing a 14. On the 22 250s, we typically do a 1 in 12. Most people are shooting around that 55 grain bullet on the 22 250s. But we're a custom shop, so I've had customers order 1 in 8 twists out of a 22 250, and because they want to run like a 70 grain bullet or 75 grain bullet, and we'll do that. It's just any of the custom builds that we don't get in that we have on the shelf is just like everybody else. It's 12 to 16 week wait, and most of the time it's just waiting on the barrel. We either have everything made here in Arizona, or or very close. Like our receiver sets are made here. We use a lot of Timney and Velocity triggers that are in Arizona. We have handguards that are made here. We have our own handguard. That one that you have on the screen with the chaos and the rain, that's actually a Smoke Composites carbon fiber handguard. I believe they're out of Vegas. Nice lightweight handguard. And we get that chaos down with all the carbon fiber on it. It's right at 7 pounds even for the AR-10 and the chaos.
That's light, especially BCG and everything else.
Yeah,
That's super light.
yeah, and we don't use a lightweight BCG for an AR-10. I prefer the either a variable mass or a full mass just to help with that pressure and keeping that bolt closed that extra millisecond.
How do your 22 Creeds run? I don't have it hanging up behind me. I just built one. I absolutely love it. I'm running like a, what am I running? It's an 88 at like 30, was it 33? Something like
Yeah,
that.
that sounds about right. Yeah, that's cooking.
I can't
Yeah,
remember
I've
off the top of my head.
in mine I run a 69 grain TMK from Sierra, and I'm running just over 35, and never had any cycling issues with that. And I run 100% suppressed like most of us do.
Yeah, go suppressed or go home. What suppressor are you
Yeah,
guys liking?
uh, I'm using the suppressed armament system, it's titanium can, but we just got our SOT again, and so I'm going to be ordering one of the OSS or they just changed their name to HRWRX Hushworks or something like that.
Works, yeah.
Yeah, just because there's no back pressure and it's not going to get your action and all your bullets all dirty like most of the other ones. So I'm going to try it out and see how it is. I heard it's a little bit louder than others, but I like that turbine system where it puts all that junk out the front.
Yeah, I did have that issue. I was hunting with, or I was shooting with Al Morris last year, and he was shooting it, and it just didn't to my ear. It was super weird. That was on a bolt gun. I honestly don't know if I've heard one on an AR. How quiet they are. Right now, I'm testing the stealth projects. I'm also testing the KG maze or the KGM technologies. Man, those cans are freaking phenomenal.
I heard some
Lightweight
really good things about them.
titanium, and they're tunable on the end, so it's got ports all the way around the outside, and you can screw screws in, so you could leave all the screws in the top out and do the bottom to drive your muzzle down and
Okay.
do different things like that. And man, I shot what 2 or 3 elk this year and a deer on my 28 Nosler with their 30 cannon. Everybody that was with me were just blown away because I mean, I was talking about that with Sean Utley yesterday about cans, and there's two big factors: there's recoil and there's sound, right? And sound is great, but if you can't recoil with the rifle right, and you can't get back on target fast, the sound doesn't honestly matter if it's a few decibels, right?
No, absolutely.
And that was one of the big things we were kind of talking about. And some of these newer suppressors coming out, they sound good. They're getting their sound down, but man, trying to stay on target is just almost impossible, some of them. And to me, that's kind of one of those selling points, like, hey, you got to kind of have the best of both worlds when it comes to that. There's
Isn't
just two.
that interesting how the hunting world and the competition world? I mean, that's such a big key factor, keeping your recoil to a minimum so you go back on target.
Mhm.
Both of us being from the PRS type background, that's required. I mean, you got to stay on target and see your hits.
Right, yeah. And I mean, especially like on a coyote when you're getting a running target most of the time, because I mean, it's funny because you can put a target out there at 200 yards and we can be the best PRS shooter in the world, and you still get excited and miss half the time. And coming up with those follow up shots, we've all had those running follow up shots where we're just like trying to track our misses and see how fast he's running and then adjust the lead. But yeah, having that and then shooting off of tripods and everything else, I mean, that just adds more freaking
Yeah.
more
Oh yeah.
more Western fun to it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So tell me, the velocity triggers, now that's Bear's brother, right? That's
Yes.
the other
Yeah.
part of tell me about those triggers. Are they any good?
They are. I switched most of mine over. I still love my Timneys, and not trying to compare the two because two different companies.
Mhm.
But I believe Tom Veer, who owns Velocity, designed the trigger for Timney when he worked there with his brother John, who owns it.
Uh,
And Not sure what happened, none of my business, but he opened his own company and he's been doing it for several years. And he's local to me, and we have a mutual friend. So I went over there one day and he let me try one and told me, give me an honest opinion. If you think it's garbage, throw it out. And so I put in one of my guns, and I go to the range every Thursday or Friday to test fire all the rifles we build for the week. And I always take one of mine with me just to get a little practice in.
Mhm.
And man, I'm really digging it. I think the price point of his, I use their classic trigger. It's a 3 pound, and it's a very crisp 3 pound trigger. I think that's as good, if not better, than the Timney competition trigger, the 667. And the price is probably $60, $70 cheaper than the Timney.
That much.
Again, yeah, and I'm not trying to badmouth Timney. I've had a relationship with them for a long time, and I still love their triggers. I have several of the Daniel Horners and the Kelvin Elites. But for a hunting trigger, I think a 3 pound trigger, it's very crisp, is the way to go. And I like the velocity triggers a lot.
Yeah, all right. Well, good to know. Yeah, I did work for Timney for a year and a half, 2 years, however long it was, and I did hear about the brother that was doing his thing, but I don't think I've ever touched one. Like I've never tried to use one. I've never put one on an AR, so I don't know anything about them. So that was kind of why I was, getting your feedback, I guess.
Yeah, I did a little blog post a couple weeks, maybe a month back, about the best 3 pound trigger you never heard of. I think that's how I titled it. It's up on the web page, at the top right of the tab. But I really enjoyed them. We took a trigger gauge to 6 or 7 different triggers, Elfmans and a couple Timneys, and the Velocity and a Geisley trigger tech. And I was quite surprised at the pull weight and how consistent it was and how crisp it was with the velocities.
Interesting. That's the thing. Is there's so many great companies out there, and that's kind of why I wanted to have you on. Is I have talked to people, like at let's take for example at the Hunt Expo. Like somebody came up to me and they're like, "Well, I'm really looking for something, because we were doing bolt guns, and really looking for something semi-auto that's going to hammer." And I sent some guys back to you, and it's one of those things. Just getting the good people's name out there. I had a long discussion yesterday with Sean Utley, and there's so many shitty freaking people out there, and that have businesses with this industry. I wouldn't say so many because the industry isn't that big, but there are some pieces of crap out there. And I wanted to make sure I brought you on though, and kind of enhanced, the quality and everything else I've heard about your rifles. Now, I've never shot one, so I can't say this is the best AR-10 on the planet, because there's some great AR-10s out there. But I think you've kind of figured out your niche where you're making things a little bit different, the looks a little bit different, the feels a little bit different, and you're going more down that ultralight, where the Seekins and other stuff isn't necessarily as geared towards the hunter right now.
Sure.
Now, can these be used for like big game hunting too?
Yeah, absolutely. I used my very first antelope I took 3 years ago in New Mexico. I used a 6.5 by 47 AR-10, and then my second antelope I used a 6.5 Grendel. Um, my buddy, my hunting partner Dominic, his both of his sons have a 6.5 Creedmoor I made for him in an AR-10. It's a it's a heavy pig. It's probably a 12 pound rifle before a scope. He's got a big old barrel on it, a PRS stock. But shooting off a tripod, they've killed a couple nice sized cow elk with the 6.5 Creedmoors.
Yeah, and that's I've seen quite a few people do it with those. I had some issues in the beginning with my 6.5 Grendel. Me and my boy shot, and it wasn't your Grendel. It was just the Grendel in saying it. But um we had some issues with bullet expansion issues and some different things. And I tried a few different ones because we all know that case was just badass, but there's a reason why it's not more popular because it just doesn't have the ass behind it, right? It doesn't have the velocity that a lot of this new stuff has. And so it took me a while, and I hunt coyotes with it a lot just because I have a couple cases of ammo for it. And it is fun to shoot. But I was trying to figure out, what to use. And this year I was talking to one of the guys from Barnes, and they came out with a 120. The cool thing about this 126.5 is it has the same ogive as the 300 Blackout. And when I shot a couple freaking foxes and a coyote with it, man, and it just decimated them. And I'm like, holy cow! I mean, this looks like, honestly, looks like a, you know, a six Creedmoor hit it or something else. You know, it just hammered it, and I'm like, wow. And with that ogive on that bullet, I think it just made it super crazy. But that's kind of one of those cool things, is the evolution of the bullets, the evolution of the barrels, you know, going faster with a lot of these older calibers. You know, I still see it all the time in forums where everybody's fighting over what's better, 22,
Oh yeah,
250, 243, you know, all the old school stuff. And
absolutely.
to you, what is your favorite cartridge for coyote hunting and everything, and why?
Man, I changed my guns so much, but I think my favorite right now is a six Creedmoor. I used to hunt with nothing but 20-inch barrels. This year, I shortened it down to an 18-inch, and I put a carbon barrel on one of my guns, and still getting great velocity. And I hunted with it one time in end of March. I usually don't hunt in March just because it's getting too warm, and it's almost time for birthing and denning season. But man, I tell you what, it hits them, and I've never even had one spin with six Creedmoor. I actually went up to North Dakota. I built a bolt gun. I went up to North Dakota because some of the guys wanted to see some bolt guns, and I used a 95 grain Burger classic hunter bullet and shot the biggest coyote of my life. It was like 42 and a half pounds, which a lot of the East Coast guys, that's, their average coyote, but and our average coyote here in Arizona is probably 25 pounds. And shooting a 42-pound coyote, and I mean, it hit him right behind the shoulder where you're supposed to, and it didn't even exit. It was it was very shocking. And I think I was still shooting 3250, I think, out of that 95 grainer.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I just built one, but mine's more of a PRS rifle. But I've been in the back of my mind thinking about, you know, what do I want to build? I did back here. You guys can't all see it, but I just built an ultra short. It's a 16-inch 6.5 Creed folder. I called it my truck gun, you know, and I want to shoot those 120 Maxes out of it, or maybe even load some of these 120 Barnes and shoot it out of it. But, you know, I think we're kind of going back to that shorter barrel, faster twist,
Yeah.
you know, trying to get it out of the barrel a little bit faster, but it being able to like maneuver it a little bit better, right?
Yeah,
And
a lot of us hunt out of trucks or out of Rangers, and having a 24 or 26-inch barrel and then put a 7 to 9 inch suppressor on it, man, it's swinging a 2x4 trying to get out of the vehicle. So
it's
I
like a
like the
10
shorter
months.
ones. 18 and 20 inches my two favorite lengths, and you still get plenty of velocity out of most of the cartridges that we shoot.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I've been bouncing back and forth. I built a 204 a long time ago because it was fun. You know, you're pushing a, what was that? What am I pushing that? It's like a 36 grain Varminator at like 4120 or
Yeah,
something. I mean, they're just
yeah, I was
smoking.
gonna say they're right around 4,000.
But the problem is, as we all know, wind hits it and it's gone, you know. And
Yeah,
so that one's a fun little gun, but there's different, you know, different variations or different things you want to use that for. If you're out hunting and it's real windy in the plains or something else, it's not a good gun to hunt with.
right.
You know, we've got the Grendel, which I really like. I've been hunting a lot lately with, you know, like a 223 wild, but my issue with those is trying to find something super accurate that I really want to shoot, like my 204 and this Grendel. And I think that's kind of one of the directions I want to go, is I want to do some ultra short six Creed, or well, I did build a 22 Creed as well, and it's on a little bit heavier barrel. It's on like an 18 to 20-inch barrel with a suppressor, in a carbon fiber setup, and it's in a Macmillan actually, with a full archer rail, so I can put it on a tripod and stuff. And I think we're starting to push. We're shooting 88, the ELDMs, and then the 80 grain match burners. They're at 32 or something like that, 33. And I mean, that's a screaming bullet for the BC and everything else too. And those Creedmoor cartridges are just super cool, I think.
They are. I built a little 14 and a half inch 6.5 Creedmoor. I just took to Montana and Wyoming with me. Um, about 3 weeks ago, I was up there for a business meeting on the carbon fiber side of things, and I got one of the guys that follows us on Facebook just reached out to me, and he bought a gun actually, and he invited me to go out. So I brought my thermal on that little 14.5 inch, and that was a lot of fun. I'm pushing a 120. I don't remember my speeds. I think 2620, I believe, on that 14.5 inch. It's a cool little gun. I like those shorter guns. We call it like our DV8 model with the D and the V and the number 8. We don't have it up on the website yet, but we're gonna get that up there here pretty soon.
Yeah, that's the fun stuff. Is at some point you're having so much fun that you start creating crazy off the wall stuff, and then everybody starts wanting it. It's like that seems to be the direction that everybody's going anymore. Is it's like, all right, we're kind of done with the standard 26 inch, and that's how it is in the bolt gun side. No one really asks for that stuff anymore with the creation of faster powders and different bullets and everything else. Everybody wants shorter, lighter, faster, and everything else. And they're like, well, we'll just build a bigger caliber, but make it shorter to get the same thing. So instead of like a short mag, they're going to go up to we build a lot of like the 300 Normas ultra short and 7 Normas ultra short and stuff like that. And that seems to be the track for everybody else. Is that how it's going in the AR-10 game too?
Yeah, I think we don't sell very many 24-inch barrels anymore. And even if we do, we don't make bull barrels. Um, as you know, being in the gun industry for as long as you have, um, you're only gaining speed, you're not gaining accuracy. And that's, the big misconception. You could take a 12.5-inch barrel and shoot just as accurate at 100 yards as you could a 24-inch barrel. Just that speed you're losing. So I think the barrel lengths are definitely coming down. 18s and 20s are definitely most popular. And one of the AR-15 cartridges that's really gained steam this past year is that 6 ARC. We've been selling a lot of them, especially in the carbon barrel side of things. And we just finished a couple of them yesterday on the lathe and polished them up. So getting ready to send those out to customers today. Pretty neat little cartridge.
That's pretty much 6.5 Grendel to 6, right?
Yeah, it's just the shoulders pushed back, I think 15th thou or something, just to accommodate for those little bit heavier bullets.
I got yeah, and I had a podcast a while back with Jim C. And if you guys want, you can go back and listen to that podcast. We talked about trying to push cartridges over what they were designed for, and it drives me absolutely nuts. I just built a 6GT to shoot, and everybody's giving me shit. I mean, I'm shooting 28, 20, 2830, and I'm getting shit from people like, oh, that's a 29 to 3,000 foot per second cartridge. And I'm like, no, it's not. Wasn't necessarily designed to go that fast, and that's the problem. Pushing it that fast doesn't make it more accurate. It makes your barrel go out faster.
Absolutely.
And I bet my accuracy is exactly the same as you trying to push it that far. Now, I've got a 6XC, I've got a 6 Creed, I've got those other cartridges that were built to go faster. So if you want to go faster, get one of those. But just because it goes faster doesn't mean it's more accurate. And I like how you kind of hit on that.
Yeah, I got a lot of grief for building a 6GT and an AR-15. People are like, "Oh, it's not designed for that. You're stupid for doing that." I'll tell you what, pushing a 60 grain bullet, 65 grain VMAX at 3,500 feet per second on an AR-15 is pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's the thing is if we've been around this long enough and we see everybody doing something, we're like, we want to do something a little bit different. What was that cartridge that Alpha just did with GA Precision? Supposed to be super fast. Is it the 22 GT? Is that what it is?
Yeah, and I actually have 22 GT AR-10 that I built, and then I actually have a bolt gun barrel that I ordered. I don't know. I must have been drinking one night, and barrel showed up from Patriot Valley, and I'm like, what am I going to do with this? So I got a barrel just sitting over here. Anybody needs one for a Bighorn Origin prefit, let me know.
Get a jack handle. Handyman jack handle. Yeah. What was so cool about that? I never really heard everything about
it. Guys are using 90 grain A tips, and they're pushing them super fast, and it's less recoil than the 6s. So they're seeing, their impacts on targets or their misses, so they could adjust. So I think that's all it is. People, every cartridge that's ever come out, people trying to neck it up or neck it down to get an advantage. And I've been in the PRS world from day one. I was on the original board of directors. The best guys could shoot a 308 and still beat most people. It's about how you practice and how you shoot your gun. It's not about the greatest whiz bang caliber that's out there.
Yeah, it's about recoil management and some of that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I had Morgan King on a couple weeks ago, and he just kind of went through that, and he's like, "I'm shooting 6.5 Creed, and I'm smoking everybody," And it's like, well, I shot a 260 forever because that was my baby. I've got to rebuild it, but I shot the barrel out. I just need to hurry and get it done. But that was one of those things. It's like we always made fun of the excuses, And the funny thing was, we still did them. It's like, I just didn't do this or I didn't do that, and oh man, the good old days.
Oh yeah, I still have a 260 in my safe. It's one of my favorite guns. I just don't
Oh
shoot it
hell,
very much.
everybody else was building 6.5 Creeds and doing all that. I'm like, screw that. I'm building a 260. I could get brass for it. Went a little bit faster. I wasn't that much faster than the Creed. I was in the 29 something.
Yeah, I think I'm right at 2,900 with mine.
Yeah, and I mean, you're not standing on it. It's just
Nope.
got a little bit more than the Creed, but I just noticed that Sammy approved the 7 PRC now, so that's going to be interesting as well. Like you said, the neck up, neck down of all these freaking calibers is just going out of control. It seems like
it is, and every day you hear somebody doing something different, trying to make their own Wildcat.
Yeah. Yeah, I always get calls like, "Hey, can you build this?" I'm like, no, I can't build that because then you don't have the right headspace gauges. You got to turn brass. You got to do all this. And I'm like, where's that? You guys must have more time than I do to go and do all that because I barely have enough time to go freaking load brass or load ammo that I have brass and powder and primers for.
I brought my reloading setup here to the shop because I didn't have time to do it at home.
Yeah,
I still don't have time to do it.
Yeah, well, look, mine's like a couple feet behind me. It's all over there.
Yeah.
I still don't do it.
I'm the same way.
That's why I put it there. I'm like, oh, if I put it there, I'll have plenty of time to freaking do it. And that didn't happen either. So, but I mean, that's not knocking on anybody for trying something different and having fun. But I'm just like, I try to sell people. I'm like, look, this is what was made. This is what's been tested. This is what people are having great success with. I guess, and that's the biggest question I have to ask people, like, what are you trying to accomplish here? Are you just trying to accomplish something like, hey, look I have something that my buddies don't have, or what? What is that? What's the whole point of you building something crazy as hell, right?
And I think people don't realize too, trying to build a one-off as a company, buying a reamer and headspace gauges. I mean, that's between $400 and $500 just to get the tools to make a barrel.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you got to offset that cost. And so, if you only make one, who's going to pay for that reamer and headspace gauges off that one-off cartridge that you want?
Yeah, I've told guys that. I'm like, sure, I'll build it for you. Get 5 of your buddies to buy one too, and I will go ahead and buy the gauges, the reamers, and everything. Otherwise, pick something we've got in stock.
Yeah, we just did a 6x284 AR-10 barrel. And I have a short action bolt gun in 6x284. The only caveat to that being in the short action or AR-10, you have to use a light bullet. You can't use any of the heavier bullets because you have to load the mag length. But things pretty good. I mean, I got some custom 66 grain bullets I got out from a guy in North Dakota. He makes his own bullets, and I'm pushing those things at like 40, 50. I haven't shot a coyote with it yet, but if I do, I'm sure it'll knock it over.
Good thing you know somebody with barrels, because I'm sure that's going to get a little freaking pricey after a while.
After load development, it's probably got 200 rounds.
Yeah, I've had that. I had a guy call me once. He goes, "Dude, I've got like 700 barrel or 700 rounds on this barrel, and it's gone." And I'm like, "Well, how often did you clean it?" I don't know, like once. I'm like, "Well, there's half your problem because you're shooting a super fast caliber down a barrel and you didn't clean it. And then you probably spent, 200 rounds trying to sight it in and get all your data and everything else. And that always cracks me up. But barrels have come a long way too, right? And
they have.
They used to mostly be chromoly and they'd rust like a son of a bee. And now with the changes in stainless and them understanding the metallurgy, metallurgy came a long way too with understanding what metals to put in a barrel and, how they react and different things like that. But what are you guys doing for barrels? You're spinning up or you're just you're wrapping them and doing everything and
Yeah,
making them look
we use
sexy?
blanks. We have two companies that we use blanks from. One's McGowan. We get a lot of barrel blanks from them. I think their barrels, they're just a button rifle barrel, but man, I'd put that against any of the cut rifle barrels I have. We're being in some superb groups. I don't know if you follow us on social media very much, but every time a customer sends me an email or a PM, I try to ask them if I could share it and use their pictures. And I had a guy, I think he's from Ohio, I believe, and he did a 4-shot group, and it was like a quarter-inch group out of a 6 arc barrel that we built for him. He just bought the barrel, a carbon barrel from us, and he's like, "Man, I love everything about this thing. It shoots better than my bolt gun," which that's a whole nother topic we could dive into. People, the CNC machines chambering guns now or barrels now for ARs. You could get an AR to shoot just as accurate as a bolt gun. And I know people are going to lose their minds over me saying that, but it's just harder to get a AR to shoot as accurate as a bolt gun just because of the recoil difference. But I've gotten several of my guns that, if they're not shooting under half-inch group, I rebuild them. And that's what I try to do with all the customers too. We test fire every rifle that goes out the door. And if I'm an accuracy snob, I've been in the PRS since the beginning of it, and I don't want to. I don't want a gun that shoots 1 inch. I just don't want that. I want something that shoots half-inch or better.
Yeah, what Townsend Whalen said it. He says only accurate rifles are interesting, right?
Absolutely.
And that's
I
one of
use that
those.
on my website for a while.
Yep, yep, and that was one of those things. And yeah, you're right. I mean, there's so many moving parts in an AR that they weren't known to be super accurate. I mean, the first accurate AR I ever had was one that I actually built because I got sick of buying ARs from everybody else that were okay, for the price. So I had my buddy Jeff Sipe do the barrel for me. It's a 223 Wild, and I had him build the specs. And that was when I worked for Remington. So I just called the DPMS guys, had them send me all the drawings over. I spec'd it out, did everything. It's an 8 twist Wild. And man, that thing just freaking hammers. I love that thing. Everybody that shoots it, I was shooting factory ammo, 10-shot groups, half-inch or better. It just hammered. And that kind of changed the mind for me on ARs. But I could only ever find them that I built or someone that went through and meticulously handcrafted everything, did feed ramps, tuned them 100% perfect. So, are you guys the way you guys are doing it on a bigger scale? How are you guys? And I guess you don't have to give me all the details, but how are you controlling your QC to where your quality is so much better? Does it come into just the chambering process or what?
Mostly. So we check the barrel for straightness, we check gas port size, and we check the chamber. So we always double check, make sure the headspace is on before we even start building the rifle. But we also make sure that the bolt is square to the chamber. And I think that's where we differ from a lot of people. We do a little bit more QC before we even build the rifle, and then we take each rifle out and we test fire it. Making sure that bolt face is square to the chamber, I think, is ideal, because that's where you get your accuracy from. Is that you know that area right there? It's You could have a barrel that might be off center a little bit, but as long as that squared chamber is set and the headspace is set, um, that's where the accuracy comes from, in my belief. And I also think the stainless barrels are inherently more accurate than hammer forged or chromoly barrels. I think it's just me thinking this. It's not a proven fact. I'm definitely not a scientist or a metallurgist, but I think stainless barrels are a little bit softer than the chromolys, and I think it grabs the bullet better. Um, and I just think that's why they're a little bit more accurate, and that's why we use only stainless steel barrels.
Yeah, and they don't pit. I mean, you don't have those issues back, especially if you're back east where there's a lot of humidity.
Right.
We did those at wow, I can't even talk, at Barnes Bullets, and the ones that we always had out in the tank for testing, you could see they pitted and you could feel it, and you could feel the just after a while, you could just feel the barrel starting to get nasty. And I think, with what they call alligator throat and everything else in a lot of those, I think it's just gotten a lot better, over the years with the way those are built and the way they're crafted. And, I talked about this in one of my short range episodes a while back. Is one of the big things is a hand lapping process. I mean, that was one of
Yes.
the big things, right?
I sincerely believe that all of our barrels are hand lapped before we get them, and we check them, make sure. So we've had one or two that where they forgot or they didn't do that good of a job, and then we finished it up. Um, Accuracy is such a big key to what we do in the QC. I have a couple guys out there. As soon as we get barrels in, they drop what they're doing and they start QCing the barrels and checking everything. If a barrel's not in our specs, I mean, it sucks to send a barrel back, but we've sent several of them back because it wasn't up to our standards. And if we let something like that slide and somebody's starting to get an inch and a quarter inch group, to me that's unacceptable. And so we make sure we do all that QC beforehand.
And when you guys go through QC, you just check what barrel groove, twist rate, all that kind of stuff to make sure.
Absolutely.
You guys do that
Make sure the gas port's drilled.
Okay, you guys doing that with pin gauges, or how do you guys do your?
Yes, yeah, pin gauges. We don't have the more expensive machinery with the air gauge stuff, but we check everything with the pin gauge and chambers. We have a dedicated JP bolt for the AR-10s. That's just to check headspace. Just we've checked it over and over, and there's so many variables out there with bolt carriers. You get stuff from companies that aren't very reputable all the way up to great companies like JP,
Mhm.
and their stuff is top notch. So we use a lot of that type of companies who take pride in their product, and it just shows that the accuracy we're getting using other people's top notch products.
Right. Right. And that says a lot. I've heard a lot of people to where the client gets it or the customer gets it and it's not shooting her the shit, and then they get it back and it just never was. And I've always got, we had to do a lot of that QC stuff. And the companies, from the company, from the manufacturer, they miss that a lot. So it's always good to have multiple steps of QC to cover a lot of that stuff because it gets missed. And just to let you know, McGowan is doing they're doing a whole bunch of cut rifle because I just bought a whole bunch of them.
Yep, I talked to Dan over there. They're only doing 6.5s and bigger.
Mhm. You muted yourself, homie.
Is that better?
There you go. Yeah, you muted yourself for a minute.
Yeah, sorry. I had a call coming in, so I tried to get rid of them.
That's all
sorry
right.
about that.
You're good.
So I have a 6.5 Creedmoor coming in from them in a cut rifle just so I can do some testing on it.
Yeah, the cut rifles that I've tested with, I've done 300s, a couple sevens, some other stuff, and they've all performed a lot better. They cleaned up really nice. They seem to be super good, and kind of like you said, and I did another short range about, um, you know, button versus cut rifle and different things like that. And there were so many, bench rest world records were shot with button rifles. It was and people still haven't been able to beat them with cut rifle barrels. You know what I mean? And button rifle barrels are just as accurate and everything else, but everybody's kind of come to this, oh, it's new, it's got to be better, blah blah blah. But I mean, take for instance Schillen. Schillen's always built phenomenal barrels. They're probably, out of all the barrels, I've tested thousands and thousands of barrels. Schillen was one of the top barrels that I ever tested as far as consistency and accuracy. And
they're good stuff.
They just don't, they don't have the names as the Bartlands and some of the others, but they always built phenomenal freaking shooting barrels. So just because somebody tells you, oh, you have to have a cut rifle and you have a button, doesn't make it more accurate, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I have several cut rifles on some bolt guns, and they shoot great. I have a benchmark on that 260 I was talking about, and that's probably my best shooting rifle.
Yeah, Benchmark puts out damn good barrels. They always have. I mean, I've never had, I don't, knock on wood, I don't think I've ever had. I just barely started. We did an agreement with them a couple of years ago, and I just barely started shooting them and love them. There's a couple of guys on my long range tactics crew that that's how they just speak so highly of the Benchmarks. But like any other barrel right now, they're almost impossible to freaking get. And actions.
Absolutely. I think one thing that not so much us industry guys do, but I see a lot of customers, a lot of guys in these forums and Facebook pages. They try to pit companies against each other. You know, they're Benchmark versus Bartline, or us versus another rifle manufacturer. And I don't think anybody that's in the industry cares. I mean, I want everybody to prosper. If you're not using my rifle, I'm not mad about that. But there's people that just come on your page and, oh, your barrel looks like this, or your rifle looks like this. Why are you copying this guy? And then it's like they're pitting you against another manufacturer. And I just, that's one of the things that I hate about the Facebook and some of the forums, that there's a difference between brand loyalty and then just smack talking just because you use a certain brand.
Right. And as a brand guy, that runs that, I don't think I'd want somebody like that, talking about
Exactly.
my brand either. We always call those typer snipers, as you know. You
Oh
go
yeah.
out there and just talk shit on other people because you're behind your keyboard. If you were at their face, you'd never do it. Most of them wouldn't. Probably 98% of them wouldn't. But
Sure.
yeah, I mean, that's just that goes along with that piece of just being a good freaking person. We're gonna have a couple podcasts here pretty soon, because I always, with the amount of companies that I manage and run, I'm always getting bombarded with, I want to be a sponsored shooter, I want to be an ambassador. I'm sure you get the same thing.
Oh yeah.
And we're gonna do some podcasts about that. If okay, I want to be an influencer, what do I need to do? Or I want to be a pro staffer, what do I need to do? That kind of stuff. So that's one of those things we're going to have some podcasts about, and just tell people to quit being douche canoes and and freaking be a good person. I mean, that's all there is to it. And I mean, and that again, that's why I wanted to talk to you today, is to give, your brand a little bit more. And then also just to get people to introduce to you, because that's one of the big things is, in my opinion, the people behind companies sell more products now. It's not necessarily just the product. It's the people, behind the brand or in the company that people kind of relate to, or they track to, and then they want to support that person. There's just too many companies out there now with the same exact thing, or close to the same exact thing. And, like you said, the way forums and everything else is, people kind of create that link, or they see, about different companies and how the company comes onto that forum and treats other people. That one's a big one. I see some of those companies come out and they're just assholes. It's like, yeah, somehow they still
Yeah.
get sales. I don't know. They're still here.
Yeah, and just like you, we get hit up weekly about, hey, could you donate to this? Or hey, could we be a team shooter? And people don't realize that you have to bring value, and you have to create content, not just share things. And you know, and I've done it in the past, and we don't do it anymore. But in the past, we've had giving guns to people, and as soon as they get their gun, they disappear on you, and you don't get any, you know, content on them. You don't get any value, and so you just lost a, for us. An AR-10 starts at 19.99. So $2,000 is a hard pill to swallow, to give to somebody and not get anything in return.
Yeah, I see that all the time. And I'll be honest, I get so much shit on a weekly basis that I suck. I'm usually a couple months behind trying to put stuff out, but it's one of those things. At least you're putting forth an effort to try and, get stuff out for people, because it is, in the end of the day, it's how they pay their bills, it's how their livelihood and everything else. And if
Right.
you're a tool about that, and we've been trying to figure out how to protect ourselves a little bit better, and not just send out, certain things. But that's the problem, is how do you also let everybody else know what this person did? Because once everybody in the industry knows how big of a tool they are, they'll quit using them. There's been quite
Right.
a few of those YouTubers and influencers and stuff that do the same thing to everybody. It's like, how has no one caught this for this long? I don't get that. But
And there's a couple guys in the predator hunting industry do the same thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I probably know who they are too. No, and that's the thing, is the predator hunting industry is another one of those small little cliques, and there's some super good freaking dudes in it, and there's super good tools in it.
Yeah.
I've some of my best friends I've met through predator hunting, and going through that, and that's just still one of my all-time favorite things to do ever. They're like, if you could hunt anything, what is it? And I'm like, probably predators. Dogs, coyotes, or wolves, coyotes, bears, anything predator, because they're just they're wired different. They're more, in my opinion, they're more fun to hunt because they're super smart. But don't get me wrong, big bucks are one of the smartest animals on the planet, and it's just the whole hunting aspect of everything's fun. But well, I'm glad I had you on, brother. And looking through your website, I even learned some stuff. I'm gonna have to go back through it. I might have to hit you up and see if I can't get one to play with. And I don't know. I haven't. I've shot AR-10s. I bought a few. I've sold a few. The only one that I think I've got now is a Robinson armament, and it's not really a precision instrument, kind of like yours are. But I am looking for something in that, and I might have to hit you up, maybe get one from you and buy something. Or, I don't know. We'll figure it out. But
Yeah,
I
give me a
appreciate
shout.
you coming on, brother.
No, thanks for having me. And again, thanks for sending the people my way during the Hunt Expo. That one gentleman from Texas, he came over and said, "Hey, Cole told me to buy a rifle from you," and he threw his American Express down. He bought one of the Chaoses, the $3,400 rifle is all carbon. I think he got it in 243, and he just absolutely loves it. So, thank you for helping us out too.
Yep, we've done a few posts within the group, the LRT Tactics group about them. I don't know if you're in that. I think I invited you. There's like 22,000 people in it.
Oh wow,
It's
I'll
on
have to look at
Facebook.
that.
LR Long Range Tactics official group. And I posted some of your stuff in there because people were looking for some AR-10s. So go look in there. But how do people find your stuff?
Yeah, so for the rifles, it's sdrifles.com, samdavidrifles.com. For the carbon barrels, it's spadecomposites.com. My email is super simple, scott@sdrifles.com. Go to the website, Facebook, Specialized Dynamics. Instagram, I think, is SD Custom Rifles. I don't. Instagram's starting to make me a little bit mad. They're I think you saw my post, and I posted on your timeline. There is they're not allowing hashtags with any guns in it. So you could post anything you want on it, and if there's a picture of a gun in it, your hashtag won't show up in that hashtag. And I actually I email or I sent a PM to the owners of Instagram and the managers of Instagram. Of course, I never heard anything back, but us legal gun owners and businesses, we shouldn't be put on a different level as everybody else. And we're not going to get into politics, but I just think it's a shame that they're silencing us because of some bad people, and it's not
Well, yeah,
anything besides the bad people.
and you've gone through the right. You've been vetted by federal agencies. You've been done all this, and they say, hey, he's legal to sell suppressors. He's legal to sell NFA stuff. He's legal to sell guns. So that just boggles my mind. Now, maybe some Tom, Dick, or Harry trying to move a gun or something. I understand that, but somebody that's got the proper licenses and everything else. I mean, it's always been a very cloudy line as to what you can accomplish on social media, even being an FFL or SOT.
Yeah, no, I agree, and any of the small business owners out there, you got to take advantage of social media while you can, because I think eventually they're gonna kick us all to the curb,
Yep.
and it's free marketing, and that's probably why I didn't see your page, because I'm pretty active on the business page, but I don't post a whole lot on my personal stuff. I just think my personal stuff's my personal stuff, and actually one of my marketing guys is yelling at me because I only got 200 followers or 200 friends on Facebook, and I should have 5,000. I said, just not a fan of the personal stuff. I'll post all day long on the business stuff.
Yeah, and I've struggled with that in the past too. I'm like, God, do I just need to push my all because I have too many damn accounts, and I'm like, I don't know. I need to quit focusing on mine and keep it more of my family and everything else. But I mean, I'm over 5,000 on Facebook and almost 9,000 on Instagram, and I'm like, I don't know who the hell half these people are. So that's the hard thing is
Well,
I don't.
it's good too though with you, Cole, and I try to do it myself. We're part of the community. We're not just a business who, hey, just buy our stuff, buy our stuff. I don't believe in pushing it that way. I want to be part of the community and answer people's questions about predator hunting. And if they have a problem with the gun, it doesn't matter if it's mine or not. I'll try to help them out as best as I can.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you're the same way.
that's a good thing to have. I always get private messages like, hey, it's hard where you're already getting enough messages and texts and emails to take your time to answer somebody, but you never know. It might lead to a friend or, a longtime client or customer or something like that. So definitely that's a good thing to have. All right, brother. I appreciate it. And again, if anybody wants to find out about, specialized dynamics or anything else, hit him up. If you want to learn more about predator hunting, he's a good guy to talk to about that too. Anyway, I appreciate y'all for listening. Last but not least, Bucked Up Energy is one of their ambassadors. I have a code. Use code LR Tactics 20. So all caps LR Tactics 20. That'll give you 20% off the entire store. So if you're going out training for hunting season or you want to try out some new products, you're looking for amino acids, any of that stuff, go check out their stuff. It's actually pretty good stuff. Anyway, thanks for listening. Have a good week. Till next time. See ya.
Don't be afraid to pipe up. Send us your questions or topics and we'll cover them on the show. Thanks for listening.